Okay, so for those who may not be familiar with us, we've been in business for over 22 years now, and PureLink was founded by one of the engineering managers from Samsung, Minty Park, who discovered a number of issues in video transport and embarked on his own company to solve those. And one of the very first things PureLink is known for is resolving issues with HTTP key management in matrix systems, as well as EDID management. There's many, many other things in our history. We've got 6 sub-brands. Today's class is about iCON, but we do have the world's most flexible and largest cross-platform matrix routers, Media Access and Pure Media. Our PureStream is quite a number of innovations in AV over IP, distribution, transport, and cameras, and network switches, and so on. HD Tools is a line of matrix switchers, scalers, presentation products, and so on. And Total Wire is our top of the line cabling, anywhere from CAT to SDI, DVI fiber, USB-C, and more over copper or fiber, as well as a few wireless options. So please take a look at PureLink if there's anything you're looking at as in terms of audio, video, transport, switching, and control. We have a lot of very effective solutions. Okay, we're going to take a look at our clients real quick. We serve over 400 through many reps and distributors. Some of you are on this call today. Anywhere from entertainment to corporate, medical, government, military, staging and rental, and many, many more. As you can see, this is just a cross-section of the kind of customers that use our products. Okay, so today we're covering easy control. This presentation, you will get this at the end, as well as there will be a video available to you for review. All right, so what is iCON Easy Control? One of the most important things to remember from today is that iCON brings to you 2 very significant advantages in control automation. One of them is a la carte hardware. You can have 1 touch panel, you can have 20 touch panels, you can have extension I/O boxes, you can use our proprietary equipment, you can use Android, Windows, Mac as user interfaces. So there's a lot of flexibility. So this allows you to deal with small systems or very large systems, and also the ability to expand an existing system. So there's really no stone unturned with iCON, the capability to deal with small, maybe a mom and pop restaurant with a sound system and some displays you want to control, to full building control of university or a critical viewing facility, and more. The second advantage, which is also quite significant, is that we have brought to the market the easiest programming environment for control automation. Our platform, Easy Control, using our proprietary language called Easy, allows you to get up and running on building control automation projects with little to no experience in programming languages, because our language uses English, and it also uses your mouse, as we point out here. So it's incredibly simple to create a system. And, we provide monthly training as well as one-on-one training and support for projects, sales engineering and so forth. We're really trying to make this as easy as possible, not only for the purpose of getting things up and running quickly, but the easier and the faster you can program, the less resources are involved in the project, so the cost goes down. And I'm sure you or your client would be quite happy to have the least amount of labor line item on getting a control system up and running. Okay, so let's take a deeper look here. Again, these are just kind of high-level features. The first is our proprietary interfaces. You see some touch panels and keypads and so on. These are actually controllers. You don't necessarily need any additional hardware under most conditions. If you need additional control connection types or additional connections in different locations in a system, then you would add on these little black boxes you see, but it is possible in a lot of projects that you could just simply buy one of these interfaces and you have what you need. So again, scalable. We have wall mount, tabletop, touch panels, the tactile keypad. We have the expanders and the master controllers. And if you want to program beyond our language of easy, we do offer Java in our development environment as an alternate, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. The last thing to mention on this slide is driver development is extremely easy, just like programming the project. So you can quickly and easily build a driver on site if you need to, because sometimes that happens, or you can work on one in your lab, or we can do it for you. And we're always adding new drivers into our database, and they're easily imported and exported into your development environment. So there's literally worry-free ability to build drivers or have PureLink build your drivers for you. Okay, so we'll start with the 4-inch touch panel. This is the iCON T4W. It's a double gang wall mount. It's powered off of the lowest PoE power standard, which is 802.3 AF. That's a 15-watt power standard. We don't actually even use all of that. So these all run very cool to the touch. There's no fans or anything of that nature. And the T4W has a LAN port and an RS485 port for control connections. Many products, as you know, these days are controlled over the network. So as I mentioned before, the LAN port, that can control hundreds of devices from this little 4-inch touch panel. If you need to expand, you can use the E4. We'll talk about that in a moment. But as with the rest of the interfaces, you can use them as a controller, or you can use them as an interface slave to the C8 master controller. And we'll be looking at that in a moment, so you'll be able to tie all this together a little better when we get to that. Okay, the K10D. This is 10 tactile buttons. We provide you several sheets of icons that you see on the buttons. This has been done with many products for decades, so it's easy to find these inserts to put on the buttons, but of course we give you quite a lot of those. And then you've got a rotary push button dial that's programmable along with the LED ring around it. And those buttons do have 3 states. They have on and 2 different colors, white and green illumination. So you have 3 states of feedback to the user on those. And those are completely programmable. You can pulse them or leave them on or off, and you can do many other things because you can condition the programming of those LEDs on those buttons. Okay, so you have more connectivity built onto this. Again, it is powered PoE 802.3 AF. You have the LAN connector, RS232. You have 2 of those, 2 relay ports, infrared and digital I/O. And you see we do offer local power if you choose to do that or want to do that. We provide a 24-volt power adapter that you can use if you prefer or need to use power other than PoE. All right, now the T10, this is a tabletop. You see the kickstand. This is a 10-inch panel. Again, integrated controller. As long as a LAN connection and RS485 is all you need, then this touch panel is all you need to control your system. Completely programmable automation, and we're going to look at that in a moment. And you can use the integrated controller, or you can use this as a slave interface to the iCON C8. And if you do want to use the T10 as a controller and you need more control ports, you can add the E4 expander. The T10W is a wall mount version of the same panel. We provide you the gang box in the packaging with the touch panel, so you have everything you need to install it in the wall. So it's really the exact same product, other than one is tabletop with a kickstand and this one is wall mount with a gang box. All right, so the C8, I mentioned this a little bit. This is, we call it the master controller. As you can see, it has a lot of connectivity on it, which is listed on the slide. So what happens when you use this as your controller is the T4W, the K10D, the T10, and the T10W all become interface slaves to the C8. And in fact, the pages that appear on those touch panels are actually served out of this C8 to those devices. You also have options to use Chrome, Windows, or Mac tablets as your user interface. So this does open up options for you to access the internal pages of the C8. Okay, and also in this case, if the connectivity is not sufficient, you can add the iCON E4 to this device. Okay, so here is the E4 that I mentioned. This is not a controller. This is just an expander, and it will work with any of the products that I've mentioned so far. And you can add as many as you need. So if you need one in an auditorium and one in a lobby and one in a conference room and classrooms or so on, it is possible to have multiple E4s in your system, and it adds 4 RS-232 ports and 4 relay connections. All right, so that's the hardware. You can mix and match all of this. You can have multiple touch panels and so on. So when you're ready to really start looking into a project with iCON, we invite and encourage you to get in touch with us so we can help you get off the ground easily on your project. Okay, so we don't want you to worry. This is quite easy stuff, but we will definitely help you anytime you need, especially in the first few that you get involved with. So we're going to start taking a look at the development environment, which is called iCON Easy Control. And this is one of the pages for Easy Control. I just want to say for a moment that we do hands-on, so to speak, classes. I am doing it hands-on, and you can watch. We have a camera and equipment that we're doing, and we program right in front of you just so you see how easy it is. And I'll mention this at the end, but we have a program called Test Drive, and that allows you to get in some iCON control products and kick the tires. Go ahead and write your own project, and you'll see how startlingly easy it is. You'll think you're missing something because it's quite easy to do, but that's the whole point of our line. So definitely consider that. Get some iCON product in if you just want a T10 just to play with, or a T4W so you can play around, write some code, and then come to the live online classes where we do the hands-on, and you can follow along with your system and write the code. So this page is one of 3 main parts of iCON Easy Control. There's the project manager, which we'll look at in a moment. There's the UI designer, where you spend 90% of your time. And there's the driver manager, where you create more low-level drivers. There's more than one way to create drivers. There's a way that you can do it on the spot, and it's quite simple. And I'll actually show you that today, and then you can write more sophisticated drivers if you like, or we can do it for you. So the important thing to get from this slide is that, as I mentioned before, our easy language is written in English. And you see in the orange box here, we have some code to send a control string to one of our switchers, the PS610 presentation switcher. And the string is setting the input to input. So that's the first line we show. And the second line is not even necessary. It's just a console debug string. It says print PS610 call HDMI2 to console. I'll show you that in a moment. But that's for the programmer as they're writing code to test what they're doing is happening. So it helps you feel confident that what you're doing is working. Okay, so that's the easy coding. And a lot of this, what you're looking at, is written by using your mouse, just to click on predetermined selections. So Easy Control guides you, and I'll show you that in a moment. Now, Java is one of the top 5 most popular programming languages in the world. So you shouldn't have any problem either finding somebody who knows Java, or you know it, or you may know similar languages. A lot of these languages have similarities, and if you just learn a few of the differences, you've saved a lot of time learning Java. But we do actually help you with that. You'll see in a moment. And that's using our autofill function. We also provide code hints as you're writing it. So you'll get little pop-ups as you're writing the code to suggest to you what you should be doing next. And then once you write some code, one of the nice things you'll find when you get your hands on and actually do some of this is you can wind up doing a lot of copying and pasting and cloning. And that means if you write some code to select HDMI1 on a switch, there's very little that changes when you need to select other inputs like HDMI2 or 3. You literally be changing a number from 1 to 2 or 3. And so you copy and paste all that and create all your other buttons. So the first button might take a few minutes, and then the rest of them take a fraction of that time. So it goes much faster. Okay, so I showed you a little example there. It was a very minor example, but one of the things, we're asked is people actually do programming. There's conditional statements. So when you get into automating things, a lot of times one common example is an if-then statement. So if some value changes, like the switch has somebody change its input a different way than iCON, maybe they're using a remote control or front panel controls, something changes. You want the program to detect that and then react to it. So for example, in this case, it says if the return string from the PS610 contains text that says HDMI1, then you want to update the user interface so that the user can confirm or knows just looking at the touch panel that they're on input 1, because the content may not tell them. So if the switch gets changed, then this statement here will update the touch panel automatically and set the right buttons to the appropriate state. And the important part is our easy language offers that. So I can very quickly write an if-then statement, and I don't have to feel overwhelmed, about understanding to some very deep programming level how to do that. It's quite easy. The example down here at the bottom is a little different. It's testing for example, our PS610 will report its temperature. So you might want to have an alert in case there's an over temperature condition, right? So then that information, and you can choose many different things to do. And here I've chosen to update text on the touch panel to alert the user, hey, there's a high temperature condition. You could also have chosen to shut off the switch here, or you could have chosen to turn the air conditioning down. So there's a lot of things you can do. Okay, so we looked at some of the easy language examples. Here's an example of Java. Now this looks a lot more intimidating, but those who are familiar with programming, it's really typical. And what I'm going to show you in a moment is that iCON Easy Control will help guide me what to write. This looks confusing. I'm going to show you this can be quite easy. There's nothing to be alarmed about at all. We make this as easy as possible for you if you choose to go this way. Okay, some other things in our development environment to make life easy for you is how do you create the graphics for your touch panel? And so we give you all sorts of different buttons and sliders and switches and rectangles and circles to group things together. We let you show streaming video inputs on the panel. You can put your logo up there. As you can see, our logos on this panel. I can create buttons traditionally, like you might see on the right side of this touch panel example. But on the left side, you may notice I've got icons of Android and Apple TV and a laptop and a camera. So you can actually create a button and use a graphic image for that button. So it's even more intuitive for you or your user to know what's what. So if somebody walks in to a conference room, has never been in that room before, they could look at this and know exactly how to get their laptop up on screen or the conferencing camera or things of that nature. You can have lighting presets, audio presets, you could have HVAC presets, you can raise and lower projector screens, shades and curtains. And these preset buttons on the right, those are actually macro buttons and they can call multiple things. So for example, when you press the presentation button, it's going to set one of the input buttons on the left. It's going to pick a lighting preset. It's going to do an audio preset. And depending on how far you want to go with it, you could turn the air conditioning off or on. You could turn on the projector, drop the screen, close the shades, all by pressing one button. And you can also automate the buttons with timers. You can say at 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday, I want the room air conditioning to be turned on and the lights to be turned on. And at 5 p.m., I want them all to shut off automatically. So you can automate classrooms or conference rooms or auditoriums or lobbies, waiting rooms. You can automate switching. You could say, from a certain time of day, I want a certain source on the screen above my reception desk, and you could automatically cycle those inputs every 30 seconds, every 5 minutes, every 5 hours, whatever you want. So it's complete automation. Really, whatever you can imagine that you want to do, you can do that with our Easy Control. Okay, another convenience, you may do many different projects. You may want to have some foundational graphics that you reuse over and over again. So we allow you to do that very easily with our templates. So, for example, I'm showing importing a set of audio controls into a touchscreen, and this may be my, baseline. Every project I want this look, but I could create 10 or 20 different or more templates of audio controls or lighting or input switching or video displays or things like that. So I import this and then I can change a few parameters. I can change the background to black and we change the slider from cyan to red, or these buttons I can restyle and so on. So you can either create your templates and just reuse them, or you can reuse them and restyle them, for each project. So again, anything you want to do, anything you don't want to do, you want to build things fast and easy, this is a great tool for doing that. This is just one of many examples we show in the technical hands-on classes. What I'm presenting here is saying that every component that goes on your touchscreen, you have numerous parameters that you can adjust so things look and feel the way that you want them. So I can change button sizes, the color, the font. I can have different text, whether the button's in the on or off state, I can have it a different color if it's in the on or off state. And I can also have them either a solid color or a gradient color in one state and an image in another, or both, or vice versa. So again, anything you want to do is possible here. Okay, the project manager page, now this looks quite busy, but it's broken up into sensible sections here. The section on the far left is all the drivers of devices that you want to control, ordered by geographic location in your application. So for example, you'll see here I've got a main area and a conference room, got a green room and a lobby. I have the escape pod room here with the HAL 9000, if anybody knows what movie that is referenced to. So the point here is that you can organize the drivers in a way that makes sense. So I know, for example, in my conference room, I've got 2 switchers in there, but in my lobby, I've just got an expander. I don't have any other gear in there yet. The areas in the middle, that's about connections and the parameters of the drivers and the controllers. So for today, we'll just say anything that you need to set, or little things that you need to write as notes about each part of the system, you can put in here, and you can also check that the settings are correct, maybe the IP address of certain drivers or RS-232 settings, and so on. Then on the right, we have our device driver database, and this is where I just simply pick any of these drivers and add them to my project. If I want to do simple and fast device driver creation, I do it right here in the device database section, and I can make a driver in a matter of minutes and then use it in the project. This is also where I import and export drivers. So if you have a driver that PureLink is working on and it's a last minute project and you're out on the job site and we just finished the driver, you say, hey, okay, email it to me. We can email you that driver, and then you just import it into your device database. Maybe you're on site and your programmer back at the lab is finishing up a driver, same story. He can send that, or maybe you're the guy back at the lab writing the driver and you need to send that out to the field. You can write it and then export it and send it to your tech out on the job site. Or you might be the tech on the job site and you're the programmer. And as I said before, you can just quickly write a driver on site and get up and running. The very bottom section, there's two tabs. One's called console, and this is a debug area, an informational area. So as the program is running on iCON, you can watch events occur, whether they're manual or automated. They'll appear with details here. It'll also give you details about your controller. It will detect for it on the network and let you know if it's there or not there. And also you can write code in Easy or Java to intentionally report an event in the console window. So let's say somebody presses a button, you could write exactly what you want to appear in the console when that button is pressed. And then the problem section is if there's an issue with compiling the project or a piece of code you've written, it will give you a warning and it will tell you exactly where that problem is. And if you double click on that issue, it will take you right to the section of code that it considers at fault. So it makes it extremely easy to figure out what was the issue and fix it. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears real quick here. We've got iCON up and running, and I'll turn on my camera so you can see the panel. And I am connected to an actual PS610 switch, but I'm just going to show you. If you look in the console window, I'm going to clear it. And then when I press a button on here, you see some data come up. Some of this I coded myself to appear, and some of it the program automatically sends. Like, for example, in this black area, it's telling me that certain components have changed state. And I can turn on these ID numbers on each one of these elements of the interface. Like, I know this may be hard to see, but this Apple TV input is ID 31, and this media player button is ID 32, and you can see that it says HDMI 1 button is pressed. In the case of this switcher, HDMI 1 is that media player. So it changes the state of that button to active and makes sure that all the other buttons are inactive. And it lets me know that there was a string sent to my switcher. So there's a lot of good detail here. All right, so let me turn on the camera. So when you see me, for example, press this input button at the top here, you'll see code come up letting me know that I selected the USB-C input 1 on my switcher. And this is live data actually coming out of my switch. So it comes back and then it's processed through these if statements that I could have written in easy. In this case, I didn't, but you see where it says user input equals USB-C1, that came from this line of code right here. Print input equals USB-C1. I can change lighting presets. I can use the slider and make adjustments to the lighting preset. And then an example of the macro buttons. I know it's probably hard to read, I apologize about the lighting, but this button here is the conference button. So I'm going to press that. You'll see a bunch of things change on the touch panel. My input changed to laptop. My lighting was set to 50%. My audio was set to 100%. All right, so that was all done there. So let's take a look at the code behind this conference button. So I'm going to see what event is tied to that button. It's called conference preset. And that's right here. All right, so we're going to look at the easy language because that was really the most important thing I wanted you to see in this hour. All right, so I have some buttons programmed in Java and some in easy. And we're going to talk about something related to that in a minute. But here is setting the switch to HDMI 3. And so the first thing I do is call this driver and I send the input. Okay, and then I just do some property controls, and these are all copy and paste. So I'm going to go ahead and make a button so you can just watch this actually happen because I keep saying how easy it is. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is copy a button and paste it. I'm just going to paste it over here just to all right, so let's take this and put it up here just so it's easy to see. All right, now it created its new ID number. It's unique, 173, and I'm going to create an event. So I come in here and I say new button event, and we'll just say we're going to make up something, HDMI 10. Okay, so we'll create HDMI 10. Here it is. Now, when I want to add some code, I can click right here and I'll start a new line, and it limits me to legal things that I can do. Well, I want to change the input of my switch, so I want to send a command through the switch driver. So I'm using my mouse, by the way. I can't show you that, but I just clicked on call driver, and then it asks me which driver I want to use. Now it's only going to show me drivers that I put in my program. So I'm going to call the PS610 6x1 switch, and I'm going to send it a string. So I'm just using my mouse, and now I'll have to type whatever the command is, but it might be set input, HDMI 10, and then just carriage return. Okay, and so I typed in the command that comes with the command document for the switch, and I hit OK, and that's it. So you don't have to learn Java, you don't have to learn C# or any of that. You just you click with the mouse and then type in command. That's it. So this button now does a function. Now, if I want to do something more sophisticated, let's say I want to do one of those conditional commands. So here's a condition, and I can say if the return string from the PS610 contains the text HDMI 10, right, I'm just searching for that in a string. Then I want to set the button. So we'll look for our HDMI 10 button. And there's a lot more, we get into about having main pages and then having sub pages and pop-up pages. So there's just a lot of power. We'll just pick this and say, change the state of that button to active, and that's it. Maybe I want to print something to the console, so I'll say print whatever I want it to say, input set to HDMI 10. So that's for the programmer. All right, maybe I want to start a timer and start checking something or making changes every so often. So I'll say timer start. I'm going to check the fan temperature. All right, so 90% of what I've done here is mouse clicks. Okay, so that's just kind of a primer for you. I created this touch panel, by the way. The whole thing took me, say, about an hour and a half to build this project. And this project has, all these graphics in it. I've got code to interact these presets with the slider. I've got multiple devices in here, and I read feedback from those devices. Here's the presets. You can look at some of the code behind those. It's very simple. I'll decipher this for you. It just means when I press this conference room button, it's actually pressing the laptop button and pressing the 50% light button and the setting audio to 85%. And these lines in green are just notes you write to say what that code is, so you can even see that. And I can put spaces in between here to make it more readable. So there's a lot of things we can teach you, but here, let me just show you an example of writing a line of Java code. So I can say they usually start with a $sign, and notice when I type the $sign, it now brings me up all the legal strings. So it's like being on a road with curb. You can't go off the road here. So as I continue to type, it continues to narrow down my choices, and it also explains each one of them. So it tells me what call driver this version is, or maybe I want to look at a different version. What does this do? And it explains all that to me. And then it even provides me an example. So I can press on the example and it will show me how to write that string. So as I continue to write the string, it is walking me through. Maybe I'll do 1. So it helps you through there. And if you make a mistake, so we'll intentionally check this broken. If I compile it, it will tell me you have a syntax error. And if I double click on the syntax error, it highlights the line of code. And I could be in a completely different place in the user interface, but if I double click on that, it'll take me to where the error is. All right, now here's something fun. As you see, we try to help you learn and succeed in Java if you want to do that, or you can stay in the easy language. But here's some easy language, right? I'm just changing the state of buttons, but maybe I want, what does that look like in Java? So I can actually change it to Java. So if you're trying to learn, this is a great function in here. It's just converted it for me. And now maybe you understand what each one of these is. So I'll say, well, what's the one below? Well, I'm changing the state of component 86. Well, that is the lighting off button. So here I'll say, double forward, I'll say change, or you could say, or confirm lighting off button is deactive. And maybe that's because you've set one of these other presets. You don't ever want all of them to be on, or more than one of them to be on. So 90 in this case is the one that's active. So 90 is the 100% button. So all these other lines of code are changing the rest of the buttons to deactive. So here we're saying set lighting to 100%. Okay, and again, just one last thing I'll show you here. So I click on anything here, and the properties on the right change to the properties of whatever is highlighted in my graphics area. So here I've highlighted the 50% audio button, right? And here I can see the parameters of that button, and I can also see what UI event is triggered when I press that button. So I'll just pick 75 so you can see that change. So now I've got my audio 75 button with ID of 84, and it's firing this event here. Okay, and again, it's quite easy. If I don't want it to look like a button, I can say make it an image, and I can pick an image. We'll just pick something, and I can change that, and that's the icon in the normal state, and then I can pick a different icon when that button's in the active state. Okay, so I mentioned before test drive. Strongly encourage you to request at least one of the touch panels, and you get this development environment along with it. There's videos, documentation, PowerPoints. You call us, we'll help you with any part of it and try it out, get used to it. We have news that we put out every week. One of the easiest ways to keep in touch with us is through email. If you go to our webpage in the upper right, you can sign up for our weekly emails. And LinkedIn, I would say, is the second best way. If you follow us on LinkedIn, we post there every week, but we have other channels as well that we post to. So I'm going to stay on for questions. I appreciate everybody's time, and this is an exciting product. I don't know how many of you have used other control automation systems, but I've worked with AMX and Crestron and Savant and Savvy and QSys and Control4. I promise you, from those experiences, this is easier and faster and as effective and as scalable. So please get your demo gear and give us a shout, and we'll help you get up and running. So thanks again. And also, when you get your demo gear or your samples, come to these technical classes and we can program together. And we're even happy if you say, hey, can we do a project that fits my needs? We'll do that during the class, so you get something really useful and effective for your needs. Okay, so thanks again, everybody. I'll see you next time. Have a good day.